Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in for another REDX podcast. Today we have special guest Garrett Maroon. Garrett is a husband, father of five, successful real estate entrepreneur, author of The Balanced Breakthrough, Winning at Work Without Life, and founder of The Faithful Agent. With over a decade of experience and 650 homes sold, Garrett has built a thriving business on a simple but revolutionary belief that you don't have to sacrifice your family, health, or values to succeed in real estate. Garrett equips professionals to redefine success, reclaim intentional living, and build businesses aligned with who they are. Thank you so much for joining us today, Garrett.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That's the nicest introduction I've ever had, and I assume my assistant wrote that because I haven't heard that one before, so I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's exciting to have you on, and thank you. I'd love to jump right in and start picking your brain about business tactics, if that's all right with you.
Yep, let's do it.
You often say that the best businesses are built by being more of who you are, not less. Where do you think agents first learned the idea that they needed to become someone else to succeed?
Yeah, such a good question. I mean, I think that broadly speaking, that's an industry problem. When an agent joins this industry, so I'll talk about my experience. I was 27 years old when I came into real estate. And I was a highly relational person, didn't really want to build and do anything else. But I was told, and didn't know any better, so I was told to go to the class on cold calling, door knocking, open houses, buying leads, all the things, which that works for a ton of agents, but it doesn't work for everyone. But you're kind of told this is what success is going to look like. Therefore, if you want to succeed in this industry, you must do all of these things. And so very quickly in our industry, we are immediately told if who you are is not good enough, you need to become like this person, or you need to look like, what this avatar looks like. And that's what success is going to take. So that happens almost out the gate, is people are told to do things they don't want to do, aren't going to be great at, and then they burn out because of it. And I don't think it's us failing the industry as much as the industry is failing us.
I know authenticity in the age of social media can seem a lot like a buzzword, but it sounds a lot like you live it and preach it as a business principle. How does authenticity practically change the way an agent shows up with clients and with prospects, and how can that change their business?
Yeah. So I remember being at, it's this men's retreat at the church I grew up in. This is years ago, Keely. And I remember the pastor who was there, who was teaching over the weekend, and he said something, and it applies to us in our business. He said, God loves the real you, not the ideal you. And I think about that in many contexts, but in the context for us in our business, your clients want to see the real you, not the ideal you. And I think that would free a lot of agents to understand no one can beat you at being you. Right? When we lose clients, when we lose the relationships with them, when we fail in our lead generation strategy and tactics, it's because we're trying to be someone that we aren't. Now, lots of people could beat me at trying to be, the social media guru, because that's not who I am. I don't like it. I don't want to be on it. Right? But not many people could beat me at working by referral, and no one could beat me at just showing up and being myself. At the end of the day, I think one of the flaws in our industry is we think I've got to create a business where every single potential buyer or seller wants to work with me. Well, that's just not true. Your job is to attract people who are like you and want to work with you. And in order to do that, there's going to be some people that say, you know what, I don't want to work with that person because X, Y, and Z doesn't matter. But if you aren't clear on who you are and who you help and why someone would like you and want to work with you, then you also aren't going to be clear at who you're supposed to keep away, right? And who's not supposed to be a client that you serve. And so we spend so much time trying to be all things to all people, which is a recipe for failure and burnout. It might work for a little while, and that's the danger. And so agents think, well, maybe I should just keep doing this, keep doing this, keep doing this. And I'll just share this last thing. So just a couple of days ago, I went to a listing appointment, $650,000 house, was a great price point in Newport News, Virginia, where I am. And it was a referral, right? That's what our business has been built on. But I showed up with Crocs and shorts on, and I smelled terrible because I've been sitting by the fire pit all day. And I walked in and I was like, hey, sorry for the smell. My wife thinks it makes me smell more manly. And they laughed, and they were in the process of moving, shorts and a t-shirt, whatever. That's what they wanted. If I walked in full suit and tie with a fancy car and drove up, they might be like, I don't know, this is like a salesman kind of guy. I'm not sure that this is who we want to work with, right? So we have to remember that not everybody wants the same thing, and that's good. And so therefore, there's a lot of people that are going to want who you are specifically. But if you pretend and hide who you are, they'll never know you. They'll never connect with you. They'll never work with you because of that. And then all the clients that choose you based on this false identity are just going to wear you out and burn you out, and then you're going to quit. And that's not a good way to build a long, sustainable business.
So for you, as you started to transition from that cookie cutter image into more of yourself, what kind of differences did you notice as you grew that and as you made jokes about smelling like a fire pit?
Yeah. That's right. So I have been fortunate. I mean, I started at age 27. It took me 5.5 months to make a sale. So when I came in, so I did all the classes on the cold calling, open house, all the things I talked about, but I actually never did any of those. So I've never done an open house in 11 and a half years. I've never bought a lead. I've never made a cold call. It's because I had enough understanding that I want to build a business by relationship. And if that's not going to work, okay. But if this business is going to succeed for me in 5 years, then it's got to be built the way that makes sense to me. And so it took me 5.5 months to make that first sale. So there's many times I thought about picking up the phone and dialing someone randomly. There's many times I thought about doing open houses and posting on social media. Again, it doesn't mean those things are wrong at all. It's about who you are individually. But I just stuck to, I'm going to be successful and master this referral business. Now, I didn't grow up here, so it's not like I knew a bunch of people. I knew 40 people. That was the only number of people in my database. And I'll tell you what was interesting, Keely, the biggest shift for me was as I focused in to become a master at that one thing, what started as the top agents and the leaders in my office saying, Garrett, it's not going to be possible. My goal was to sell 50 homes all by referral. What started as it's not going to be possible for you to do that, you need to do other things for lead generation, quickly became, so my second year, I sold 50 homes by referral, quickly became, will you come teach us how you did that? And so that was the biggest shift as I, to a degree, blocked out the noise, put my head down, focused on building by referral because that's how I wanted to build, what felt true to me. And it came with a lot of success. And so now everyone was like, wait a minute, I guess you can do it. Will you show us how you did it?
I love that. I think it's really interesting that a lot of what you talk about has to do with prioritizing faith and family and other aspects of your life in with your business. How have you seen that balancing all aspects of your life benefit your business and strengthen it, especially as you are growing your business?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, first, we've got 5 little kids at home. So the oldest is 8, the youngest is 6 months. So there's not a lot of sleep and there's not a lot of free time. But I would say this, what's been best about the intentionality of, so I shut off my phone at 4:30. I don't work on weekends. 4:30 family walk, right? Like that's the cutoff point for me every single day. Not working on the weekends. I mean, occasionally an hour or two, but very, very rarely. And starting my days at 9. What has been helpful about that is when I truncated my hours, when I willingly said, I'm not just going to work 12, 13 hours a day, be available all the time to everybody, like, like they teach you. And like I did for a long time, it's not that I never did that. Right. But as I was learning, I'm going to force my hours between 9 and 4:30. What it did was it forced me to make hard but good decisions on what mattered and what actually was important to move my business forward. Because when you have 12 hours a day, when you have 10 hours a day, whatever, you can fit everything in that, even most of the stuff that doesn't even move the needle doesn't matter for your business. When your time is condensed and you have less of it, it forces you to say, okay, does this actually move the needle in my business? And if it doesn't, the answer has to be no. So that's been the biggest difference for me, is saying, okay, I set up boundaries around my family. And so therefore, what I have left is to go succeed. And the beauty of it, Keely, is when I started to really condense my hours, I went from literally selling 50 homes a year to selling 50 homes a year. Nothing changed, right? The things that I let go of, turns out they weren't important anyways. I just thought they were because I had the time to do them. And so I did them. That's a huge difference when you force yourself in a position to say, I don't have that much time. So does this actually matter? Yes or no? And actually use data and reasoning to determine. and then you start cutting those things out, I think we realize that we can succeed in a really high way without spending a lot of time if we just do the right things more often.
I love that. As you were figuring out what things really moved the needle, what things didn't, obviously something that's really important is predictability and consistency, especially with systems and when you're reaching out to people. What are the first systems an overwhelmed agent should build on or focus on if they want consistency without burnout, especially as they try to balance their authentic selves with their business?
Yeah. Great question. And there's a lot in that question. I would start here. So whenever I'm coaching or teaching someone to build out a lead generation strategy for the year, my philosophy is don't build a plan, a lead generation plan on possibility, build it on probability. And by that, I mean, I've coached many agents who show up and they say, here's my lead generation strategy for the year. And it's like 18 things. And my response is, that's the greatest lead gen plan anyone's ever created in history. That's not the point. My question is, what's the probability that you're actually going to do all of these things, right? And we also build out plans at the beginning of the year or whenever with the assumption that everything is going to go right? So if I build out a lead gen plan for 2026, and I build it out, it's a super complex plan. It's really difficult. There's a lot that needs to happen. Most likely, I'm going to build something that I'm not actually going to fully execute. And number two, that's only going to be executable if everything in my life goes right. If none of my kids get sick, if nothing happens in my life that's outside my control, all those things. And so we need to focus. If you're burnout, if you're overwhelmed, you're wondering where to start, here's what I would do. I would literally write down every single thing that you can think of that you could do for lead generation. Okay. That's number one. Step number two, I would circle the 3 that you are excited about most. Now, if you've been in the business long enough, you know the data and say these actually move the needle, then go with those 3. But otherwise, you're just saying, you know what? I really think that working by referral, I'm going to love doing that. Right. Maybe number 2, I really think I'm going to love doing open houses. And maybe number 3 is social media, whatever it is. And now you're going to cross out literally everything else. Okay. Nothing else matters. We're talking about focus. We're talking about intentionality. So you take those 3. From those 3, now you say, okay, I'm going to say that working by referral is probably number 1. So I'm going to make that number 1. Open house number 2, social media number 3. From there, I'm going to write at the top of my page, I'm going to write working by referral, and I'm just going to list everything that I can think of, or maybe find a system of somebody that's done it before and say, I think if I do all of these activities, I will generate referrals, right? And then if I do this for open houses, if I do 20 this year, and this is what it looks like. And then for social media, if I post once a day, this is what it would look like. I think this is going to generate me some deals. So now you've got a basic plan. Okay. This actually takes a little bit of work. It's going to take like 2 or 3 hours, but hang with me because it's going to simplify your life and make you feel less overwhelmed. Then I want you to look at what you have written down. And I want you to ask this simple question. Is with what I have written down, is there a 90 to 100% probability that I will do all of these activities every day, every week, every month, whenever they need to be done, right? What is the probability, not the possibility, what is the probability that I will actually do this consistently? If the answer isn't 90 to 100%, because it probably won't be at the beginning, then you need to go back through and you need to cut things out. You cut everything out until you look and say, you know what? This is as simple as it can be. There's a 90 to 100% probability that I will actually execute this. And I can guarantee you, so I am fortunate. Again, I sell 50 homes a year by referral. I spend about 5 hours a month on lead generation because I've spent the time over years continuing to look and say, does this need to be here? How simple can I make it? If I lost my mom in October 2022, right? It was really rough. And for 3 months, I really, really struggled through that. But because my system was so simple and the probability that even when life went wrong, I still was going to do it. Guess what I still did? I still did my lead generation. It didn't slow my business down. And so if you feel overwhelmed, it's probably because you said yes to too many things. I would start and say, cut out literally everything. Say yes to one way to generate business. Make a goal that you're going to do whatever. You're going to have 3 client coffees and you're going to call 10 people in your database this month, right? Whatever this scenario is. And when you do it, you're going to feel motivated because you actually kept your word. And then you just start building the plan from there and say, okay, how simple can this be that's still going to allow me to push my business forward? Because it's not, there's more to this, right? But it's not creativity and complexity that wins. It's simplicity that scales. And so we need to think that way in our business instead of listening to everyone that says, here's what it looks like to succeed. It's to your very first question. Garrett, you need to be on the phones 3 hours a day. You need to post 3 times a day. You need to do an open house tonight. Oh, also you need to go purchase those leads. And oh, by the way, you need to go door knock for an hour, right? Like when we stack all of that activity, no one can effectively do all that. So all it does is make us feel like we're losing, make us feel defeated. And therefore that's not motivating, right? We're not going to continue to build a business that way. So it's about simplification. How little can I do and still succeed? And that's each individual has to figure that out for themselves. But I would say if you feel overwhelmed because you've committed to too many things, cut almost everything out. Do one thing really, really well, see how far that takes you. Then next year, do one other thing. And I would just start there and you'll build a business that way.
I love that. I also love to bringing it back a little bit, how you talked about how some agents, what works for them may not work for you. Like some people may really kill it on social media and you don't necessarily love that. So for agents that are starting out at the very beginning, trying to figure out how they can simplify where to start, how would you recommend they go about simplifying and figuring out what works best for them? Because I know also it can be easy to say, well, maybe I'll just start with just social media and see how that does, and then not do cold calling or things like that. How would you recommend agents work to recognize what simplicity works for them and is authentic to them and what isn't?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors in play there, but I would say first and foremost, it is typical that I love that you gave the example. If someone says, you know what, I'm just going to build on social media. What is typical in that answer is actually fear of doing what is necessary to build your business, right? So don't hear me say, I was fortunate that I sold 27 homes my first year, 50 my second year, and every year since then by referral. I recognize that that's not normal, right? I was just fortunate. The Lord was really gracious. I was fortunate that that happened. There's a lot of agents that need to get out of their comfort zone and maybe do some cold calling to try to generate database and generate some deals, right? Maybe they're on a team, they're going to do that. But when it comes to figuring out what is really authentic to me, I have them pay attention to 2 things. So first, I'll have them do a time audit. So you're doing a bunch of stuff throughout the day. So you do a time audit for 3 days. And so, every 30 minutes you stop and just write down what you did. And then next to that time audit, you also add in, this is the difference, you add in what I call an energy audit. So then let's say 9 to 9:30, checked email, right? Next to that in your audit, next to that, you're either going to write a plus, a minus, or just a circle. A plus means that what I just did gave me energy. A minus means it drains my energy. And a circle means it did neither. Okay. So why does that matter? So in the course of 3 days, you're going to start to notice some trends on these things fire me up. These things drain me. That's a huge indicator of what you're naturally wired to be gifted in, right? So my lead agent on my team, Jesse, he loves to fish. I don't get it, right? We're very different. That's not how I spend my free time, but he loves it. Now, did he choose to love to fish? No, he didn't. That's innate and wired in him. And so if I went out and said, you know what, I'm just going to go fish because I'm going to love it. I mean, maybe over time, eventually I do, but the reality is that's not how I'm wired. So if that was in my time audit, I would probably write a circle or a minus. Like I felt like I just wasted my time. Whereas for Jesse, that's a major plus because it motivates him. Every single person is wired in those unique ways. And so when you pay attention to what is actually firing you up, now that's a clue to say, oh, maybe that's authentic to me. Oh, I loved, I was on social media and I was sending out DMs, whatever. And that really fired me up, right? I was spending time creating a post or a reel or whatever it was that really fired me up. Fantastic. Maybe that's a clue. If you're on social media, you're like, I really don't want to be here. That's me. I really don't want to be on social media. Then the reality is in that scenario, then don't just say, well, that's how I'm going to build my business. Figure out what does fire you up and go build a business off that. What we want is to have the wind at our back, not in our face. And when you have the wind at your back, it's when you're operating in your nature, when you're operating in what's authentic to you. And that's going to give you the best chance of success to begin with.
I love that. And along that same vein as well, I feel like as an agent, it's really easy to get into this reaction mode where you're constantly getting text calls, things are on fire. It seems like everywhere people are not doing things that they promise they should be doing. And so it can be really easy to just fall into like constantly feeling like you have to react to everything. What are some habits, daily or weekly habits, that people can incorporate into their systems so that there's a lot less reaction and a lot more intentionality as they build their business?
Yeah, great question. So definitely there is, I talk and coach many high producers, and the struggle of always feeling on. That's totally real. Whether you're hanging out with your family, or you're at work, or you're at, off by yourself doing whatever, and you're supposed to be relaxing, you feel like you're always on that mental load. And so I would give a few, I think, simple tactical suggestions. Number one, get a second phone. And so one of the biggest shifts for me was I got a work phone. And so, it used to be when I started my business in 2014, I'd wake up, I check my phone, right? I'm trying to not do that either in the mornings, but you wake up, you check your phone, and it's your personal phone. It's also your work phone. And you happen to see an email from a client. It's like, why am I emailing back at 5:30 a.m.? That doesn't make sense. And so now I have a work phone that doesn't even turn on till 9 a.m. So that physical separation is really important to not always feel like it's on. Even for my wife, it was really important because she would never know, wait, are you working? Or are you sitting there like texting a friend? What's going on here? Now she knows, because when I got the work phone, I'd literally, Keela, we'd be going on dates and I'd say, hey, look, babe, I'm leaving this at home. Right. And she'd be like, oh, thank you. I'm so glad. So get a work phone. That's number one. Number two is my phone has times where it will just go to do not disturb mode throughout the day. And so I think most agents should be unavailable most of the day. Now that's controversial. When I tell people that, they're like, that's totally not true. You must have a terrible business, right? Well, the reality is, if you are in reaction mode all day, to your point, you never actually get to build anything. All you're ever doing is helping someone else build their dreams and reach their goals, and you never get time to get to your own. That's not a good way to have a business. And so I would say that your phone needs to go in do not disturb mode. And then ultimately, I think the easiest way to think about this is just control your day until noon. If you can control your day till noon, or even 11, I'll explain how I was doing it. If you control your day till 11 or noon, and then the rest of the afternoon, fine, be as responsive as you want to be to anyone and everyone, except at night, shut it off, right? All the things. But if you do that, if you just control it till then and you push your business forward, the rest of the day is fine to be responsive to everybody. But I used to start my day, I called it the 3 L's. So I would learn, lead gen, and launch. So I would spend 9 to 10 reading. I'd spend 10 to 11 lead generating. I'd spend 11 to 11:15 telling my day where to go. And after that, I'd already had a great day. I'd push my business and my mind forward. Honestly, probably better than 99% of agents. Totally doable for anybody to sit there and do that. And then if the rest of my day got derailed because of a problem, that's fine. I already pushed everything forward that I needed to. And so I think we've got to be intentional with that time, set limits for ourselves. We're the problem, right? It's not the client. We're the problem, but we're also the solution. And that's good news. Maybe get a second phone, set time blocks for yourself where your phone goes to do not disturb mode. And then really focus on how long can I control my day? Maybe it's till 11, maybe it's till noon. And then after that, all right, if the day goes crazy, whatever, that's fine.
And for agents, I love the example of your work phone, especially. For agents that are wanting to create more boundaries to be able to protect their family and their life outside of work as well, what kind of boundaries do you recommend are protected, or that how do you recommend they find those boundaries that should be protected to make sure that they have their family time, to make sure they have their faith time, or whatever else it is that really fills their cup or helps them, whether it's fishing or whatever it is, to be able to focus and have their me time?
Yeah, no doubt. So again, this is going to be different for everybody, but I would start with probably one of the hardest things I ever did was I asked my wife, this is years ago, but I was years into the business, Keely. And I remember, I don't know if it was at dinner, what the scenario was. I think we had 1 or 2 of our kids at the time. And I remember my wife's name is Rachel. And I said, it popped in my head, I said, Rachel, I never asked you this question, but if what I wanted to build took us longer to get there, what I was trying to achieve took us longer to get there, but I got to spend more time at home, is that what you want? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. That is what I want. I was like, wait a minute. Why have I never asked you that? I've been assuming that you wanted me to get there as fast as possible, even if it meant missing dinners and doing all the things, right? And so I would just start by asking the people in your life that matter, because what's the point of succeeding if you're sacrificing everybody you love along the way? There's no one left to celebrate. It doesn't matter anymore. No one came with you. So who cares? I'm not proud of the person that does that. And you wouldn't be proud of the person either. If you're listening, you're like, yeah, I wouldn't be proud of myself for doing that. And so ask the people in your life, what do you think is reasonable? When do you need me around? When do you need my attention? All of those things. And then I also think, don't be afraid very early on. I would sit down with my clients, and this was my schedule, but I'd sit down with the new buyer, new seller, and I'd say, great, here's my office hours. Now, this is what I did early on. I would say I'm available 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, not on Wednesday. At Wednesday night, I have date night with my wife at 5, so you're not going to get me that night. And then Saturday by appointment only, and Sundays I don't work. It's family day. It's day at church with the Lord. But if we're actively negotiating, of course I'm going to help you that day. You're not going to lose because of that, right? And the response was, wow, you work a lot. Well, I wasn't working most of the time. I was just available, right? But I set the boundary up front to say, at 7 p.m., when I don't answer your call, don't be surprised. I told you I wasn't going to. On Wednesday nights, I can't tell you how many times I had a voicemail from someone who said, hey, Garrett, I know it's date night. I'm so sorry to bother you. Don't worry about calling me back till tomorrow, right? Most things are not that urgent. Now, if you're actively in a deal, negotiate, like I get it. There's some times where you have to be available to those things. But I think if you have to be available, you need to share that with the person that's important to you, right? So I need to tell my wife, hey, babe, I am actively negotiating a deal. That's why I brought my work phone. I'm going to check it a couple of times because I just need to pay it. Oh, of course, that's totally fine, right? She would have no problem. She got it. She understood this is what I was doing to provide for our family. But I think you ask the people in your life, help me create boundaries, and then you tell your clients. And don't be afraid of that. Every single business in the world has hours, right? For some reason, agents have bought into this lie that we can't. We have to be available 24/7. That's terrible. That's wrong. That's a recipe for burnout. And that's a recipe for everyone in your life for hating what you do, even though you're succeeding.
I love that. As you look ahead, what mindset shift will separate agents who thrive from those who, like you said, burn out over the next 5 to 10 years?
I mean, so we can't do anything to change the market, right? Interest rates up and down. It's been a fist fight the last few years. It's been hard. I would say the biggest shift is, who are the agents that are learning something consistently, right? Are they growing their minds? Are they filling their minds with good stuff, with things that are going to help them in their business, help them in their home? Or are they stuck reading the news, scrolling social media, things that are just going to drag us down and make us wear out, right? So you've got to protect your mind. And then I would say it comes down to, how consistently can I take authentic action? And if an agent listening just wrote that question down and asked themselves that over and over and over again, they'd win. How consistently can I take authentic action? Because burnout comes from either succeeding, doing something that you hate doing, right? That's still burnout. Or not succeeding at all by doing what you would love doing because you never became good at it because you were busy doing other things. And so what I mean by that is, how consistently can I act true to who I am? So if I love working by referral, which I do, how often can I take action that's going to build my business by relationships, right? If I love doing cold calls, because lots of people do, how often can I cold call and do that at a high level, right? We have to figure out, and then everything else, I'm just going to say no to it because it doesn't align with who I am. And if it doesn't align with who I am, it's going to totally burn me out. So the best agents that I know, the ones that have succeeded at a high level, I've been fortunate to succeed at a high level, is we have lasting power in sustainability because we protect our energy, we protect our time. We do our best to take action. That business is hard, don't get me wrong, but we do our best to build a business based on what we enjoy doing. And because of that, it creates sustainability, it creates consistency. And if you're still here doing the right thing over and over and over again, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now, I guarantee you, you're not burnt out. I guarantee you, your business is significantly bigger than it is now. And so just being here 5 to 10 years from now is a massive goal. That if you're still here, I guarantee your business is going to be better. You're going to be making more money, selling more homes, and having more time freedom. And so I think we've got to start with that, right? How consistently can I take authentic action?
If an agent feels stuck between that ambition and exhaustion, especially as they focus on that authentic action, what's a single belief or mindset that you would recommend agents start to develop or focus on to be able to help them through that?
Man, again, a great question.
Good question.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think ambition is a great thing. But if ambition at work is keeping you from being ambitious at home, you've got the order wrong. So I would say this. I would say that first and foremost, we have to self-audit and say, is all the time I'm spending to grow my business, build my business. And I was this guy. Okay. I did this for years. This is why I wrote the book, because I realized it wasn't worth it. And I wanted to share that with other agents. Is my ambition to build my business, which was good. It was a good ambition, right? I wanted to be excellent at what I was doing. I wanted to grow, I wanted to build. It was working. Those things were good. And I was the guy that would have said, well, I'm doing this for my family. Well, what was happening? Because I was so ambitious in growing my business as quickly as possible, my family was actually losing out on that. And so my ambition naturally in work was keeping me from showing up the way that I wanted to at home when I was quote unquote doing it for them. And so what I had to come to the realization was, it was for me, it was simple as changing my timeline, right? A lot of times we overwork, we spend too many hours, we do all these things, we feel stressed out, burnout, whatever, because we set an arbitrary deadline that doesn't actually exist from anyone except ourselves. And so if I have this big, I wrote a book that took me a year and a half. Now, if I had said that has to be, and that was still pretty quick, but if I had said that has to be done in 6 months and some arbitrary deadline, it would have stressed me out to no end. I would have had to work so many extra hours to get the book written because it took a long time. Well, nobody gave me that deadline. And so when I said, why am I forcing? That's what I started. That's why am I forcing myself to try to get this done in 6 months? It's just causing me to not show up well for my family. I'm just going to bump it out, and I'm going to do it 4 hours a week is what I did. I'm going to write for 4 hours a week, but I'm just going to do that until it's done. Nobody cares if it's out in 6 months. Nobody cares if it's out in 3 years. Nobody cares if it's out, right? What my family cares about is daddy showing up for us? Is daddy here at the end of the day? Is daddy at my soccer games? Is daddy taking me to donut time, special time with, one of my middle daughter? That's what they care about. And so the only reason I'm so stressed out is because I've given myself arbitrary deadlines that I can change. And so that was a huge shift for me to say, I'm just going to push my time, not giving up my goal because I'm still ambitious. I'm going to push back my timeline, and that's going to free me up in a lot of ways.
I love that. I think deadlines are important, but if you're going to kill yourself over the deadline, maybe push it back a little bit.
Sure.
As a final parting thought, is there anything you think agents should know or be aware of today that we haven't talked about yet?
They're probably tired of listening to me talk, which is how my wife feels, but that's okay. They can fast forward. I think, this is what I would encourage. I think 2026 success, and honestly, any success that you find any year after this, it is significantly less about what have I said yes to, and it's significantly more about what have I chosen to say no to. And so if we can say no often enough to protect the yes, the important yes of, this is how I'm going to build my business, right? I'm going to do it like this, or I intended to launch this, and I know that's a good idea, but the answer is no, it doesn't serve this goal. I'm going here, I'm going here, I'm going here. If we can say no often enough to protect the yes that we actually care about, that's how we're going to win. And so that would be my encouragement. Figure out what is that yes, and then do everything possible to just say no to anything that doesn't align with that one goal. And that's how you're going to actually succeed.
For any agents that have follow-up questions or want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in contact? Do you have social media or an email or something they could contact?
Yeah. So hate social media, but I'm on it, and my assistant will check it. So if you shoot me a DM, but I would encourage them, a free gift for them. Go to GarrettMaroon.com. So GarrettMaroon. Go to GarrettMaroon.com. We're actually, for podcast listeners, giving away the audiobook of my book that launched in November, giving that away for free. So go grab that. I hope it's a blessing to you. I'd love for you to download it and listen to it, and hope it's going to really encourage you in your business.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Garrett, and thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you all next week.